In today's tightly connected world, a single regional conflict no longer stays regional. What begins as a localized clash can rapidly expand, pulling in global powers through alliances, economic interests, and military commitments. History shows that major wars often start small, not because leaders want a global confrontation, but because interconnected systems leave little room for isolation. Modern military planning is built around this reality, where one spark in a volatile region can trigger a chain reaction across continents. The danger lies in how global alliances operate. When one country becomes involved in a conflict, treaty obligations and strategic partnerships can quickly draw others in. NATO, for example, is structured around collective defense, meaning an attack on one member can lead to a coordinated response from many. Similarly, strategic partnerships between Russia, China, and regional allies mean that local conflicts are closely watched and potentially supported from afar. This interconnected web increases deterrence, but also raises the risk of rapid escalation if red lines are crossed. The United States plays a central role in this global security system. With military commitments spanning Europe, the Indo-Pacific, and the Middle East, any regional crisis has implications for American forces. A conflict in Eastern Europe could require increased U.S. presence alongside NATO allies, while tensions in the South China Sea could simultaneously demand attention from the U.S. Navy and Air Force. American military doctrine increasingly assumes that future crises may not happen one at a time, forcing planners to prepare for overlapping conflicts that stretch resources and decision-making capacity. Europe remains one of the most sensitive regions for escalation. Ongoing tensions between Russia and NATO have created an environment where miscalculation is a constant risk. Large military exercises, troop movements, and air patrols occur in close proximity, increasing the chances of accidents or misunderstandings. A limited clash, whether intentional or accidental, could quickly spiral if both sides feel compelled to respond decisively. In such a scenario, diplomatic windows may close rapidly, leaving military action as the primary tool. In the Indo-Pacific, the stakes are equally high. Tensions surrounding Taiwan, the South China Sea, and regional power competition place China and the United States on a collision course if escalation occurs. A localized incident involving naval or air forces could trigger a wider confrontation due to the strategic importance of trade routes, regional allies, and national prestige. Military planners on all sides understand that even a brief clash could have global economic and security consequences, drawing in allies and partners almost immediately. The Middle East adds another layer of complexity to this chain reaction. The region is filled with overlapping rivalries, proxy conflicts, and heavily armed states. A regional conflict involving Iran, Israel, or major Gulf states could quickly impact global energy markets and draw in external powers seeking to protect strategic interests. U.S. forces, regional allies, and even rival powers would face pressure to respond, turning a regional confrontation into a global strategic challenge. What makes modern escalation particularly dangerous is the speed at which information and military responses now travel. Cyber attacks, satellite disruptions, and information warfare can unfold in minutes, not days. A cyber incident targeting critical infrastructure might be interpreted as a prelude to military action, triggering defensive or retaliatory measures. In a tense environment, leaders may have only moments to decide whether an action is hostile or accidental, increasing the risk of misjudgment. Technology further accelerates the chain reaction. Hypersonic missiles, advanced drones, and AI-assisted targeting systems reduce warning times and compress decision-making cycles. Militaries are preparing for scenarios where simultaneous actions occur across land, sea, air, cyber, and space. In such an environment, a regional conflict can quickly take on global dimensions, as forces respond across multiple domains to protect assets and demonstrate resolve. Economic interdependence also plays a critical role. Modern conflicts disrupt global supply chains, energy flows, and financial markets almost immediately. A regional war can trigger worldwide economic instability, pressuring governments far from the battlefield to take action. Sanctions, trade restrictions, and resource shortages become tools of conflict, widening the impact and increasing the number of stakeholders involved. This economic dimension often turns regional crises into global ones, even without direct military engagement. Nuclear deterrence adds yet another layer of tension. While nuclear weapons are designed to prevent large-scale war, their presence raises the stakes in any escalation scenario. Strategic forces are kept on high alert by major powers, ensuring rapid response capabilities. In a crisis, signaling intent through military movements or exercises can be misinterpreted, increasing the risk of unintended escalation. Even when nuclear weapons are not used, their shadow influences every strategic decision. Despite these risks, global leaders consistently emphasize diplomacy and stability. Military preparations are framed as defensive measures, designed to deter aggression rather than provoke it. However, history suggests that high readiness levels combined with mistrust can create conditions where small incidents escalate rapidly. The challenge for policymakers is managing these risks while maintaining credible deterrence across multiple regions. As militaries continue to prepare for worst-case scenarios, the world enters a delicate balance. A single regional conflict, whether sparked by political tension, territorial disputes, or accidental encounters, has the potential to trigger a global military chain reaction. Understanding this reality is essential, not only for analysts and decision-makers, but for the public as well. Awareness of how interconnected modern security has become highlights the importance of restraint, communication, and diplomacy in an era where the consequences of escalation could be truly global. The modern world is defined by speed, connectivity, and complexity. Regional conflicts no longer exist in isolation, and the line between local and global has blurred almost entirely. As global powers prepare for this reality, the hope remains that preparation will serve as deterrence rather than destiny. But the risk persists that one spark in the wrong place at the wrong time could set off a chain reaction with consequences felt across the entire world. As this interconnected military environment grows more complex, another factor quietly accelerating the risk of global escalation is political pressure inside powerful nations. Domestic politics often push leaders to appear strong during crises, leaving little room for compromise. When regional conflicts erupt, leaders face public expectations, media narratives, and political rivals demanding decisive action. This internal pressure can turn limited military responses into broader commitments, especially when national pride or credibility is perceived to be at stake. Military signaling plays a crucial role in how these chain reactions develop. Deploying aircraft carriers, moving missile systems, or conducting high-profile exercises are often intended as deterrents. However, these same actions can be interpreted as preparation for attack by adversaries. When forces operate in close proximity, especially in contested regions, even routine maneuvers can escalate tensions. A single misinterpreted move can rapidly shift a situation from diplomatic standoff to military confrontation, drawing in allies and partners. Another critical element is the role of proxy forces in indirect warfare. Many regional conflicts today involve non-state actors or proxy groups supported by larger powers. These groups provide plausible deniability while allowing influence over the battlefield. However, when proxies clash, their backers may feel compelled to intervene more directly. This gradual escalation blurs responsibility and increases the likelihood that major powers become directly involved, transforming regional violence into a global military crisis. Information warfare further amplifies escalation risks. In the digital age, narratives spread instantly across social media and global news networks. Misinformation, propaganda, and emotionally charged footage can inflame public opinion and force governments to respond faster than diplomacy can function. Militaries are increasingly aware that controlling information space is as important as controlling territory. Yet this information battlefield is chaotic, and false reports or exaggerated claims can provoke unnecessary escalation. Economic warfare is also deeply intertwined with modern conflict escalation. Sanctions, trade restrictions, and financial pressure are often deployed alongside military actions. While intended to weaken adversaries, these measures can have global consequences, affecting energy prices, food supplies, and financial markets. Countries impacted indirectly may feel pressure to intervene diplomatically or militarily to protect economic stability. As economies react, political decisions follow, widening the scope of conflict beyond its original region. Alliances themselves, while designed for stability, can accelerate escalation. Collective defense agreements require rapid responses, sometimes before the full context of a situation is clear. Decision-making in alliance structures can be complex, involving multiple governments with different threat perceptions. A crisis that seems manageable to one country may be seen as existential by another. This divergence can lead to faster military responses, increasing the chance of a chain reaction. Military readiness levels also influence escalation dynamics. Forces kept on high alert reduce response time, but increase the risk of accidental engagement. Aircraft intercepts, naval patrols, and missile defense activations occur under intense pressure where seconds matter. In such environments, human error becomes a critical factor. History has shown that near-miss incidents are far more common than widely known, and in today's high-speed military environment, the margin for error is shrinking. The role of space assets cannot be ignored. Satellites enable communication, navigation, intelligence, and early warning systems. In a regional conflict, interference with space-based systems could be seen as a major escalation. Because multiple nations rely on shared orbital infrastructure, actions in space have global implications. Disrupting satellites could impact civilian life worldwide, forcing international responses even if the original conflict was localized. Cyber warfare introduces similar risks. Cyber attacks can cross borders instantly and affect civilian infrastructure far from the battlefield. Power grids, financial systems, and communication networks are increasingly targeted in conflicts. A cyber operation intended to pressure one country could spill over into allied systems, drawing them into the conflict. Attribution is often unclear, complicating responses, and increasing the risk of retaliation based on incomplete information. Global military planners now openly acknowledge that future conflicts will likely involve layered escalation rather than sudden, full-scale war. This gradual buildup makes it harder to identify clear turning points where diplomacy can intervene. Each step may seem manageable in isolation, but together they form a chain reaction that becomes difficult to stop. Understanding this dynamic is central to modern military strategy and crisis management. Despite these dangers, militaries continue to emphasize preparedness as a means of deterrence. The belief is that strong, visible readiness discourages adversaries from taking risks. However, deterrence depends heavily on perception. If one side misreads defensive measures as offensive intent, deterrence can fail. In a world of competing narratives and rapid communication, managing perception has become as important as managing forces. The challenge for global leadership is navigating this environment without triggering the very outcomes they seek to avoid. Diplomatic channels, military-to-military communication, and crisis management mechanisms are more important than ever. Yet these tools require trust, which is increasingly scarce in a world shaped by strategic competition. Without trust, even well-intentioned actions can escalate tensions. As regional conflicts continue to emerge in contested areas, the global military chain reaction remains a constant risk. The interconnected nature of alliances, economies, and technology means that isolation is no longer possible. Every decision made on a regional level now carries global consequences. This reality forces militaries to plan not only for battlefield success, but for managing escalation across multiple domains. Ultimately, the modern security environment is defined by complexity rather than clarity. No single country controls the trajectory of escalation, and no conflict remains contained for long. The possibility that a regional clash could trigger global military involvement is not a distant theory. It is a central concern shaping defense policies worldwide. Awareness of this interconnected risk is essential for understanding how today SI conflicts could shape tomorrow, IS global order. The hope remains that preparation, communication, and strategic restraint will prevent chain reactions from becoming irreversible. Yet history reminds us that even well-prepared systems can fail under pressure. As militaries continue to train, modernize, and position forces across the globe, the world watches a delicate balance unfold. One regional conflict, if mishandled, could set off a sequence of events far beyond anyone's control, redefining global security in ways that would be felt for generations.